Aloha. Boy, oh boy. Dry here. Just the tiniest little bit of rain yesterday. 3 inches an hour over on Molokai right now. I'll tell you, these are islands and they're separated when that stuff happens. I think we're going to get some rain here today. Yeah. Anybody out there who eats eggs? You've noticed? Have you noticed? I think the chicken egg might be the greatest inflation that we're experiencing at the moment during all of this. I don't know. They've gone several 100%, I think. We generally eat organic eggs, and so they're even higher. There are some prices I've seen out there in places as high as $7 a dozen. Around the island here, 5 something a dozen is pretty normal. They were always, I think, over $3 around here for organic eggs. But, yeah, well, I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, I got my eggs figured because we have a couple neighbors down here, Gary and Kahoa, that got healthy chickens. Their chickens don't have the bird flu, and so they haven't had to kill them off, and they are pumping out eggs nonstop. So we have a barter system going where those guys get plants and things from us, and we get eggs from them. Recently, they've been trying to push more. Do you need more eggs? Ellen's making custard pies. Eggs, just so we could use up all the extra eggs. Sometimes the whole world goes one direction, and it seems like our world goes another. I'm overwhelmed with low-priced eggs at the moment. But talking about eggs, let's talk about nest eggs. Yeah, nest egg. That's generally the term that we use when we're putting up money for retirement. We want to try to save some money so that one of these days we could stop working for a living as a wage slave all the time. There's several things that I really think in our basic education in the public schools that we should be covering. I think so. I think we cover, the use of automobiles. We have we call it driver's ed classes in the schools. At least we used to. And back in the 60s, I took driver's ed, even it goes back a while. It was a relatively new program at that time, but it was good. Yeah. I'm still driving today. I haven't hit anything serious. They must have taught me something. But another thing I think we ought to learn while we're in school is how about basic child rearing? Whoa. That's a complicated subject that most of us know nothing about other than our instinctive abilities, And I'm a lousy parent. Man, I could have used some education on that one. Well, another one that they don't talk about very much at all, and that's how do we retire? Yeah. Classes on retirement while we're in the beginning of our education would probably be an excellent idea because I'm well aware that I have people that probably haven't even entered the workforce yet that are viewing my channel. I know I have young people who are, 20, 30s in the workforce at the moment, actively engaged in wage slaving. And then I have a lot of older people who are either retired or thinking about retiring or wishing they had done something earlier in life so they could retire, that type of thing. So I know for sure it traumatized me. It frightened the living heck out of me. I tried to make plans for how this was going to come out, and when I looked at all the formulas out there, how much money does a man need to live, past his Social Security age and so on, none of it was feasible for me. Yeah. It didn't work. Perhaps it's because my generation, that I was a pension person. Okay, originally, when I entered the workforce, we had pensions. the few of them that didn't get robbed by the carpenters union or some such thing that I did hang on to eventually ended up being rolled over into the 401k. Okay, the 401k is kind of what happened to our pension. 401ks are through your employer, but they're personal accounts. The pensions, they're definitely through the employer, often by the employer, and well, I tell you, they disappear easily, and they're not as easy to roll over. Right, Gracie? Did the pensions roll over? Yeah. So, I get stuck in the middle, because I started off in pensions, and then ended up in 401ks. And so, I managed to roll a few of those old pensions over, and if there's anybody out there who does have a few of those old pensions around, they might be worth something, and if you haven't rolled them over into an IRA or a 401k, do so. You can do it tax-free. But, yeah, I get stuck in the middle, and so, going one way, and then all of a sudden end up going another way, and well, of course, then a lot of us have disasters in midlife. I did. I lost the farm in divorce and pretty much ended up liquidating most of everything that I had accumulated by age 40. And so I spent the last 32 years of life trying to recover from what happened to me in the middle of life. And so I'm not taking any excuses from any of you folks out there that says, "Oh, I'm too old. I didn't plan. I can't retire." I also see those people who say they're like proud of the fact that, "Well, I never take a vacation." What's wrong with you? There's a reason why we have vacations. By the way, they're part of your paycheck. Yeah, they're usually with an employee, they're paid vacations. But there are good reasons for all this. And I have never understood this egotistical, "Oh, I'm so dedicated as a worker, I never take a vacation." It's a veneer for, I'm scared to death. If I took a vacation, they'd replace me because I'm pretty useless. And I think it's an insecurity is why people think they're proud that they never take time off from work. Well, as far as I'm concerned, you got some kind of emotional problem there, because human beings have to be doing something. We are doers unless we have something that we can apply ourselves to. We're unhappy. Yeah, we want to be doing things all the time. I'm sitting in front of this camera right now. Why? I beat the heck out of just scrolling over the internet or something else, watching the morning news. Boy, you better believe that. It's a lot more fun shooting these videos. We're not happy unless we're busy with something, and so work is natural for us. We enjoy it. Yeah, there's a lot of things I do that are laborious, but I get a kick out of them. Yeah, they make me feel good. I mean, even learning how to play guitar, okay, that was work. When I was a younger man, I spent 8 hours a day at that, Now, it was a labor of love. I didn't notice the work much, but a whole lot of the things that we do for a living are not a labor of love, You're a lucky person if you can flip hamburgers from McDonald's and get satisfaction out of it. I've always found SpongeBob SquarePants to be just, as he is so happy flipping Krabby Patties. Oh my goodness. What is this, a video to train kids to enjoy being a McDonald's employee or something? I don't know. A lot of the things that we have to do for a living, and we're almost forced to. Capitalistic society, nobody's going to cover it for you, man. You're going to have to carry your own weight for the most part. So many of those things are awful. Some aren't, depends. Some of us really do get something out of our jobs, Me, I focused my life, set my life so that the kinds of things I'd be doing for a living were the kinds of things that I would have been doing for nothing anyway, because I enjoyed them so much. That's how I ended up being a musician. That's how I ended up being a farmer. How I became a horticulturalist. Yeah, because I enjoyed those things so much that I was willing to dedicate, huge parts of my life and put a lot of energy to them. Well, now I'll tell you what, while I was a musician, about the only retirement I've got from any of that is a whole drawer full of old rusty guitar strings, okay? Well, musicians don't have 401ks, you know. Musicians don't have pensions. I could have started an IRA, I suppose, if at the time I'd even had any idea what the heck that was. You know, IRA, I thought that was somebody's name, you know. Hey, IRA, you know. So, now, I wasn't set up very well for it. And then I lost a lot of what I had, and I had to start all over again. And I started all over again with the 401k and the IRA type program. These are your best investment vehicles. If you have a 401k program with your company, oh, please use it. Use it, and don't believe the garbage you hear people say. There are a lot. It's just, no, man, there's so much stuff. The coconut telegraph we got here, you know, people who blah, 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 blah. No, it's all BS, man. Why are you saying that stuff, you know? I hear stuff all the time. This is senseless. It makes no sense. Yeah, well, there's a lot of garbage out there. And definitely, that really goes for workplace 401ks, misconceptions over them. I, managed businesses for people in the past. The companies I worked for had 401ks. So as the manager, it was my job to be able to get the employees to join the pool, you know, and become part of the program. God, it was not easy. It was really hard. And I find this very difficult to believe, too, because these programs are set up pretty much strictly to benefit the employee. The people that manage the funds get some benefit out of it, too, you know. But they're set up for you. I see people every time they something happens. Oh no! I gotta go in. I gotta borrow. I gotta take money out of my 401k. I gotta buy a car. You know. Go, no, that's not what it's for. Don't do it. You know, the penalty on early withdrawal is huge. It's huge. You're better off going out to a bank and getting a loan than you are stealing from your own retirement program. Plus, then it won't be there when you need it. That's the most important part. I have people who are just shell shock over stock markets and investments. I can go on like that for quite a while. Every problem and reason under the sun why people either wouldn't get involved in their 401ks, or if they did get involved in their 401ks, then they shot themselves in the feet later because they saw, oh, I've got $30,000 sitting there. I better spend it. You know, oh, not good. Yeah. Right, Gracie? Yeah, so... And if you don't have a workplace 401k, well, you set yourself up with an IRA. I mean, there's two kinds. You get the Roth and the regular. The regular, you pay your taxes after the fact. The Roth, you pay your taxes ahead of the fact. I'm not so sure, at least for me, how useful a Roth IRA might be. Ellen has one where the taxes were paid ahead of the time. And so she can withdraw tax-free later. Any IRAs or 401ks or things you have there, eventually you'll hit an age, I think right now it's at 72 is where they set it. Anyway, you'll have this minimum withdrawal where you're going to have to pull some of that big chunk of change out, and you may end up paying taxes on it. Now, there are ways around it. Yeah, the tax plan is... It's actually written pretty good. It's complicated. It favors the rich. It favors people who are independent business people. It favors people who invest. You know, if you're a regular wage slave and somebody just hands you a paycheck every week, it probably doesn't favor you. No, you're the one that pays for the program. But you can, when it comes to the minimum or the withdrawal as you age, by using other types of tax credits and deferments, you can get yourself around that. I am still rolling over a credit that was from installing the solar on the roof here. And that will cross over with my minimum withdrawal, and the amount of credit I have coming from the IRS over the solar credit will completely cover the minimum withdrawal taxations. And so tax is a flexible thing if you put yourself in the right position and educate yourself on the tax laws and use them. Yeah, it's not that complicated. Easiest, best way for most of us to get smart this way. Yeah, get yourself some software like, H&R Block Tax Cut is the one I use. Some people like TurboTax. I don't know. There's a number of them. But if you're using a tax preparer's software, you get really smart, almost become a tax expert, because, it asks you the questions. You click the boxes, the stuff comes up, and you go through it, and after a while, you get to understand the tax code pretty well, and you know where your good road is through it. Yeah, you'll be surprised if you start doing your own taxes and you use, software to do it. Yeah, when it comes to workplace 401ks, there's a maximum contribution with the government you can make. I don't know. I think it breaks off maybe 20% of your income, something on that order. I highly recommend that you use the full deduction. I did. Yeah, I set my 401k up at work to take the maximum withdrawal off every week, and kept it up that way for about 15 years when I was working with Navlace, the nursery. That was the one and the only 401k I ever had. And it worked out pretty well for me. Now, of course, bear in mind that IRAs, 401ks, or maybe, some of my people who are teachers still have pensions. Yeah, there's some cop pensions too. There's a few pensions still out there, but so these are the major vehicles. But most all of us who have worked for a living also have Social Security. Social Security, I'd like to think it was the most reliable form of retirement funds that we have, but that's not really true, because we have a group of people in our government who do not believe that these entitlement programs should exist. You should hit the end of your working life, and if you didn't prepare for it, you should die in the street. That's basically the way part of Congress sees this whole thing. They would rather be putting money into corporate welfare or missiles and bombs or something else other than allowing Americans to comfortably retire when they hit the end of their working life. It was one of the better programs the government ever set up. It was, some of this New Deal stuff. The Republicans can't stand it because it was one of the better ideas the Democrats ever had. And it really doesn't matter, I don't think, what side of the political spectrum you sit on. If you've been paying into Social Security all your life, and you have, your working life, that money's yours. It's your money. And don't let anybody fool you. When they start talking about entitlement programs in Washington and about cutting Social Security, that ain't their money. It's their program, but it's not their money. That's your money. And so you hear anybody out there in Washington saying things like that, and they're representing you, you give them people a call, you send them an email, you let them know whose money that stuff is. It's just a government IRA program, basically, is what it was. They like to treat it as if it's not. Anyway, so that makes it insecure. It should be for Social Security, but they're making it insecure. I don't trust the program. I don't trust the people that are managing it out there right now. Because it would be political suicide to cut that program, chances are It's just a bunch of saber rattling. They've said this for years and years and years and years. They're going to get rid of Social Security. They're going to get rid of the entitlement programs, Well, they never managed. And I know why they never managed. Because if they tried, they wouldn't have a job. They'd need Social Security. So let's hope it doesn't happen. But because it is insecure, because you've got some morons in the government that don't think straight, you can't have a bunch of retired people out there who can't buy themselves a loaf of bread because they're busted. You can't have that. That does not stabilize society. So we have to participate in it. There's no way around. You can't duck out of the program. That's the other one, too. They start messing with that. I can't get out of it. Okay. And it's my money. Well, Medicare is the same way. And now if you're self-employed, these two things will really get on your back because you're going to have to pay 100% of both of the programs. Right now, if you're working for a company, General Motors or something, General Motors is paying 50% of your Social Security payment. That's the deal. That your employer pays half of it, you pay the other half. But if you're self-employed, like Green Garden guy here, you pay 100% of both programs. And you'll pay for it throughout your entire working life until you get to retire. And when you start hearing people talking about cutting Social Security and Medicare, it's time to get out a rope and put up the gallows. They got no right. So, the other thing you may not fully understand, too, is whether you were employed with the company or whether you were self-employed, when you finally decide to collect Social Security, you're going to have to keep paying for Medicare. This is a racket. Boy, they talk about, public health care. Even the retired people who've been paying all their life into a program for medical insurance when they're retired, once they retire, they find out they're still paying for the program. And on top of it, it doesn't cover half of what what it should cover. And so you got to go out to another insurance company and buy another plan just to cover the drugs. It's what they call the donut hole in Medicare. It's a screwed up program. It's a mess. And you have people talking about taking it away. And that's wrong. Be chaos. It's useful. I use it. I get by with it. I've had some major work done under Medicare that didn't cost me very much money. I think the last time I ended up in a hospital bed in an operating room, maybe I had to shell out about $1,000 out of my own pocket for all that, but you can imagine what the total bill was. It was huge. Medicare paid it. I have a prescription drug program at the moment to help me pay for the prescription drugs. And the program, because I don't use very many drugs, and they're cheap drugs. So I have no big expenses with pharmaceuticals. But unless you have an insurance policy with Medicare to cover the pharmaceuticals, you're going to get gouged with the private person rate. Yeah, that's right. Every insurance company on earth has a negotiated rate with the pharmaceutical companies that, like, say, a bottle of pills that, with my insurance, that will cost me $8. Say a blood pressure medication costs me $8 every time I pick it up. If I didn't have that coverage, the bottle would cost me $125 because the private party's price is $125. The insurance company's price is $8. It's sick. It's really sick. But I never actually make the minimum. Okay, the threshold on my drug, I think it's like $480 some a year that I have to make before they start paying for all of it. Well, I never make it. I don't use that many drugs. And so basically I have an insurance policy for almost nothing. The only thing I get from it is a negotiated price. And believe me, if you don't have the negotiated price, you're going to be sorry in this country. Healthcare is a mess here. It's an even bigger mess in Hawaii because we can't keep nurses and doctors around. Everything's understaffed, but it's a mess. My personal feeling is that healthcare, right to access to good health, it should be a human right. Yeah, it shouldn't be a for-profit business. Now, when it comes to cosmetic surgery to make me look beautiful, hair implants, sure. Breast augmentation, butt augmentations, yeah, these things you ought to pay for. That should be part of the capitalistic system here. But when it comes to, you snapped off a tooth and you need to get one fixed, or you had an appendix attack, these things are basic human rights. You're going to die. If nobody addresses your appendix, like I get blood clots, got the arteries in my heart. If they hadn't been addressed, I'd have been a dead man. So basically, our government and our system of living, when it comes to medicine, already has your name on the wanted poster over here. If you ain't got the do-re-mi, Charlie, you're probably dead. Now, Hawaii's a little different. The states vary a lot. Some of them are, oh, no, that's socialism. No. Some of them are like that. On the other hand, Hawaii, well, this is, we're into Ohana over here. Everything is kind of family. We know we're on an island together. And so if you can't afford to pay for it, they will. Yeah. Well, one of the oldest systems of socialized medicine over here on the islands. And it works. Yeah, don't let anybody ever tell you this stuff doesn't work. Now, of course, we probably pay for it with the money that the tourists pour into the economy. But as long as the money keeps coming in, we can afford to let it go on out. And one of the things that they put it into is public health. Yeah, you have, there's no reason here not to gain access to medicine one way or another. But that's an issue, because as you get older, your health's going to deteriorate. This normal. Yeah, very few of us ever, live fast, die young, and leave a good-looking corpse, although I'd say most of my friends did. Getting to be one of the oldest surviving members of a group of people who's developing one heck of a case of wrinkles. I really wish that the cameras had gone the other direction. Instead of becoming HD, they'd gone SD as my wrinkles develop, because the better the cameras get, the worse my face looks. But, oh well. Anyway, so we're back to retirement again, and there's a pretty good chance that a lot of you are never going to be able to find yourself in a position where the statistics, what they tell you that you're going to have, that you're going to be there with it. As I wasn't. I was scared of it too. I said, oh man, I don't know. How am I going to be working the rest of my life? Well, truth is, retirement is a great time to take up a job that you always wanted to do. Yeah. For the most part, you're probably set up well enough with Social Security and maybe your 401k or whatever that you can afford to lose. Yeah, if you screw up and you don't make any money one year, you can fall back on your investments and on government programs when you're retired. And so it's a great time if you've always wanted to, work as a musician, or if you've always wanted to, sell jewelry at the farmer's market, whatever it might be. You're free to do it once you're retired. You can get into things that you really wanted to do all your life and couldn't find your way to do it. It's one of the beauties of it, and that may just bring you enough money that you won't even need the other things that you set up. In my case, this is the truth mostly. I use my my IRA for outstanding expenses. When I go and buy a new car, or if I put the solar on the roof, I'll tap into my investments to do that kind of stuff. But day-to-day living around here, I don't use my Social Security or my IRA. It's that job that I set up over here for myself, mostly a Green Garden nursery. It's mostly in the nursery. Some of it's in produce. Yeah, we make money on the produce. A whole lot of it's in seed, Just pineapple slips are quite profitable. There's a lot of different things. It all comes off the farm, off the earth here. And that's actually what's paying for most of our day-to-day expenses. That's most of my insurance, payments. That's our shopping trips to town and so on. So you can find yourself in a position like that. I did not necessarily anticipate this was the way things were going to be. That's just how it worked out. Yeah, it is. Real estate markets swell and shrink and so on. And we bought into the Hawaiian market when it wasn't as crazy as it is today. And we also had bought into the California market when it wasn't as nuts as it is today either. And so, moved from California, sold the property over there. That was way more than enough money to cover the note over here on this place. And so everything's paid for. And then it was paid for without working for it. It was paid for just by inflation of various items. One of the biggest investments you'll probably ever make as a human being is the building you live in. And of course, you will need to have a place to live until the day you fall over dead on the sidewalk. So you can't really just, start buying and selling like that. But most of us gradually kind of tear our way up. I know I have, from, buying bare 40s and building my own home from recycled materials to buying a used home, on the property next door, et cetera, to, here actually building the place from the ground up using a contractor, brand new, it's gradual. Escalating situation, stepping up from one investment to the next, to the next, to the next. And these are things you should really be, paying close attention to also. It sounds crazy, but, a lot of us when we retire, we tend to move to areas where the cost of living is lower and where the cost of real estate is lower. Well, yes and no. This is what we did. The cost of real estate was lower here than it was in California. So it was a trade-off at the time. On the other hand, the cost of living in Hawaii is notoriously expensive. It's one of the highest in the U.S. California is right up there with it, and so we didn't notice much change. If you moved from Kansas City to here, you'd go back to Kansas City, I guess. Yeah, I probably would, because of costs. I hear people, got neighbors here from Pennsylvania that just can't stop complaining about what everything costs around here, And they are going back to Pennsylvania, though. They'll be happy there. But, yeah, cost of living transition wasn't much from here to California, so we really didn't notice that one at all. But it is the highest in the U.S. And so, depending on how you live, we grow a large portion of our own food. We have contacts with fishermen for getting fish for reasonable prices from them and high quality. I do bartering exchanges with people like my neighbors for eggs and so on. There are ways around the cost of living here. And because the lifestyle that I've set myself into is a self-sufficient lifestyle, what was costing you money is just taking some out of my back. Okay? I'm working for it, but I'm not necessarily paying for it. Yeah, so we are very self-sufficient on this place. Even the energy that runs my cars, I don't need an oil company. I don't need a gas company. I don't need a coal company. I don't need a nuclear reactor. We're negotiating directly with the sun here. I do have to bring in specialists on occasion. Yes, I power washed the seal off the around the pipe on my hot water heater up here in the solar collectors recently, and ended up with a drip. They had the plumbers in here. They just did some maintenance on the hot water collectors for me. You can't completely ignore the stuff, but if you're young, consider the possibility someday you may be old. If that actually happens, you're going to wish you'd started to stuff something aside, right now there are actually some CDs that the rate of interest on them is pretty good. There's some 4% and a little higher, which is not bad at all. And they're short terms, 12 and 18 month, with minimum payments on them. CDs like that with the high rate of interest right now can be a very good investment. If you don't know what else to do at the moment and you have a little bit of money sitting in the bank, go out and look for some of these high interest CDs. They'll do well for you for the next 12 months or so, or maybe beyond. Stock market's pretty scary right now anyway. So, if you haven't started, start now. High interest CD at this moment is just a great place to start. If you haven't started, if you don't have a 401k at work, go out and set yourself up an IRA. Yeah, set up an IRA, start doing your own investing. You don't need to be a genius to buy 10 shares of Ford stock. If you buy 10 shares of Ford stock, in the long run, you're not going to lose. Ford is not going anywhere, buy yourself 10 shares of Google or something or another. In other words, these are blue chip stocks. And so if you start an IRA and you put some money on companies that are extremely well known and have been in the American, business sector for quite a while, a pretty good chance you're going to make out. You give them 10 years, but you're going to make out on them. Yeah. Oh, you can look at stocks, too, that pay dividends. Some of them do. Yeah, you can get a dividend off a stock. Ford was paying a really good dividend before COVID. I think it was like 9 or 10%. I had it at the time. That was sweet. What they're paying right now, I don't know. I don't own them at the moment. They may have taken a dividend back up again. There's a number of dividend stocks. Anyway, putting the money in places where it's going to be working for you. So that when you go back to it later, you go, oh, there's more money there than there was to begin with. And it doesn't have to be a $100,000 chunk of change. You can have $100 bills working for you. Small amounts of money that are working in steady streams. They can be extremely diversified. They can come from all kinds of different directions. My investments come from all sorts of different directions. And when one is failing, the other one's probably thriving. Yeah, so, they do this, but then they kind of equal out. So, diversification, many different ways that you can have income coming in. None of them have to be really fat. They can all be kind of minor. It's gumball machines. Time at a time, folks, time at a time. All right, well, y'all hang loose. Aloha. You have a nice winter.